Like you have this broad interest in antiquity in general. And I was very curious about you as a the origins of that. Like you as a younger person, how, I mean, did you like watch Indiana Jones and you were like, that's it? Or was it like, is there a family connection? Or I'm just curious about that.
So I had nothing to do with Indiana Jones. I'm not, it's still kind of hazy what that whole film is. I
Hmm.
don't, I, I don't really have much of a connection to it, but I will say this, that for me, when I was a kid, um, I actually have the magazine. Hold on one second.
Sure.
My parents used to get National Geographic.
Mm.
And
Hmm.
so this is the magazine, and I was terribly scared of it. Like I maybe
Hmm.
was 4 or 5, and it has skeleton on it, so I'd throw it under the I would get rid of it, and my parents would keep finding it. Why is this coming back? And my parents said maybe Rachel's scared of it, and I said I am. And so here's the thing: a few years later, I couldn't read this magazine when I was a kid. Now I can read it, and I share it with my classes, but we'll zoom forward to like the late 80s, 90s, and my parents found the video of this. And
Mm.
I watched it, and it was about Pompeii and Herculaneum. And that was it. Like I was telling people what I wanted to do with my life. Even for like my bat mitzvah, my rabbi didn't know what to say about me because I didn't talk very much. But his daughter said, no, Rachel said she wants to go to Pompeii and Herculaneum. And he was like, she said that? Wow, that is incredible. Like she said, like I said, that I wanted to go see the site of Pompeii and I wanted to see what it looked like. I didn't care about the skeletons and I didn't want to see that, but I wanted to see what this dead city looked like.
Yeah.
And I got my chance in college. I got to do that, and I was always really interested in the ancient world, but not the same way that maybe somebody else, like somebody who's going to take like the introductory art history class and they know the three Doric orders. Good for you. But for me, I was like, no, I had to know, like, I had to know what the sculptures look like. I wanted to know the language, um and that was it. And I had really interesting grad teachers in college. And I took 3 ancient history classes in one semester with the three wise men. And the it's interesting, I actually have the doctoral regalia from one of the professors because
Wow.
I couldn't afford it, and he went to CUNY grad GC, so he gave it to me. Uh,
Oh.
the late great Rudy Bell, and so it was really interesting. So when I say that this was Rudy Bell's gown, they're all just like, no wonder it's like poofy. It's like a it's huge on me.
A man-sized gown, yeah.
I tried to have it hemmed and everything. It still's not where it needs to be, but I was really interested in learning about the ancient world, and I plunged into it in such a way that none of even my professors were just like, what have we got going on here? What, this is not supposed to happen. She's supposed to go from a finance major, business, lawyer. She's not supposed to do this. She's going to have a very challenging experience. But I did, and I studied ancient art. When I was at the Jewish Theological Seminary, I did that. I took ancient art courses. I even, I didn't understand antiquities the way that I understand them now. That now antiquities is a very, very different kind of field, and
Mm.
that it's a very challenging topic to discuss.
Well, that's, I guess, well, jumping off of antiquity in general, like, how then as a person did you become, would you say your interest in Judaica comes out of that, or was like parallel and just happily joined up to that, or?
Right. So a lot of collectors actually, and a lot of people who are interested in Judaica are collectors of antiquities and Judaica. They match up together. Some of the biggest collectors have that link, and it would seem natural because if you're going to visit Israel, it was Judea under the Roman provinces, and the city of Jerusalem follows that castrum map. And all the cities, Caesarea or Caesarea, Tiberias, all those cities followed that same Roman map. Decapolis. They were all Roman cities. And so it doesn't change the idea that if you're going to see, like, if you want Roman glass, that's one of the places where you can get it. So there's a definite link between the two of them. Coins, some of the best coins, Judaica coins, come there. And of course, you have the link between the first Judea war, and then you also have, even before that, you have with the Arch of Titus. Par excellence, that is, and so when I was a little kid, I said to my mom, I said, I want to go there. And I pointed a picture at that. My mom goes, that's the Arch of Titus. And it sort of became something that I was interested in. It's sort of been studied, overstudied, and I think it's nice to see, but I don't know. And there's been discussions of trying to see what it looked like painted with polychromacity. And kudos to that.
So do you see any trends in personality among the collectors, or are they pretty varied in kind of their approach to collecting and how they come to it?
So the collectors were surprising to me. And this is something I learned when I was at Bonhams. And this is education to current owners and also people who want to sell their pieces. The surprising thing is that the collector is usually, it can be Orthodox. The person is Orthodox and wants to fulfill the mitzvah of Chidor mitzvah, which means that you beautify your home, which is a mitzvah of decorating your house and having beautiful things that are related to Judaica. And lots of Judaica are beautiful. I will absolutely say that. But I also want to make this very clear that I do not collect Judaica for several reasons. It takes up a lot of space. It's very expensive. You have to have insurance on it. And also, where are you going to put them all? It's like you're going to have like this beautiful piece of silver. I have no room for it. My parents don't want it either. It's like, let it be in the museum. So if it ever passed into us, we would donate it to a local museum, and I would not write the appraisal.
That's a great point. As appraisers, we kind of get to window shop all day. So a lot of it's pretty common that we don't really have extensive collections of our own in many cases.
Right. The other side of the coin with the collectors, and this does need to be said, is that they're largely secular. May have been born Jewish, but they do not celebrate it, do not belong to a synagogue, but have the best collections ever because they love collecting Jewish things. So that's the really high-end collectors are either Orthodox or secular. Then the middle ground are the people who collect things of a specific type. Like there's a collector of Theodore Herzl material. Anything related to Theodore Herzl, anything related to the founding of the state of Israel, anything, it's very specific in generalization. You have people who collect Israeliana and talk about what these pieces are. Israeliana is something like this. This is a Chanukia by the company Fantasia, and here we see he looks like Thor from a Marvel comic, and I think it's really quite cool. I think he looks like a Viking, actually. But
a little bit, yeah.
Yes.
Wow. It's also covered in this verdigris color, which is like evocative of like archaeological finds from Israel. And so these items are 1940s, 50s, 60s. And so that's a larger conversation. But you have people who then are also collectors of Hanukkah Chanukiah, like they only collect Chanukiah, and they hang from the beginnings of time to modern times. Very specific on those kinds of things. You have people who might just collect items from Purim, Megillot. You have people who will collect items from El Al. Like they love the airline and they go out and collect that. Postage stamps. And I belong to an organization called the Jewish Thematic Society, and they love stamps.
That's great. For all those kind of middle, well, I'm curious about the top end too, but for those middle, like those specific interests, where, I mean, I know there's probably 100 places, but like where are a lot of those individuals? Where are they paying attention? Where are they like, what's the, when they've got that extra money and they want to, expand the collection? I'm sure it varies by segment, but where are they shopping? I suppose,
All right. The shopping happens in two ways. It can happen secretively, like I don't even know that there are some dealers that on this on underground are dealing in this material, so I wouldn't even know. eBay, first dibs, Shuk, like the street markets in Israel, street markets in the United States. Some are clandestine. I don't even know. Sotheby's, a sleeper sale, like something like, for example, Doyle had the Stephen Sondheim sale, and there was like the Margulies collection, and they had Judaica hidden in that sale. And other appraisers were like, we didn't even know about it. How'd you know about this, Rachel? And eyes open and keep it peeled. And
yeah. Bit of a hunt element, right? Because it's like, mixed in with the, okay.
And so it's really hard for me to say. And also, just to let you know, we have something called the Harry G. Friedman Judaica Collector Society. And it happens once a month. And we are a hardy group of collectors. It started in the 70s. With a group of collectors, including Alfred Moldovan and other Judaica collectors. I can give you that information. This was even very much before my time. But they got together and they would talk about items. And if you had an item that was suspicious, they would scream, fake! That is a fake! It was very animated, and it was, they don't do that now. Like now you don't have, I would say in the last decades or so, you don't have that problem, and you don't want to alienate anybody. People still bring their spice boxes up to show you what you found, what you had, or their recent publication. And it's really quite interesting. And you should look up who Alfred Moldovan is, because he was a physician who helped with the Freedom Riders in Selma. Yeah, it was quite fascinating on that level. And if you're not part of that society, you miss out on a lot of the juicy information about what collections coming up and whatnot. There's also an area that is not largely discussed, and Judaica is not all dreidels and golems. There are also anti-Semitica is a collectible item, and it's done very seriously, and it's done with intention to, and a large collection that belonged to Ehrenthal, I think, was donated to the museum, the Holocaust Memorial Museum in Washington. It was done with purpose, and there are some museums that will not collect it, don't want it. And yeah.
You mentioned the Holocaust Museum. Are there other museums that you would recommend for people who want to see Judaica in a museum setting?
Of course. I recommend the Museum of Jewish Heritage. I recommend the Bernard Museum in Congregation Temple Emmanuel in New York City. I recommend it simply because you can get up really close to see the pieces, and the lighting is really good. It's not crowded, and a few years ago they even had a Barbra Streisand show. I recommend the Jewish Museum par excellence, New York City. I recommend the American Museum of Jewish History in Philadelphia, the Spiritus Museum. It's endless. It's endless. I recommend also, one of my favorite is Temple Mikvah Israel in Savannah, Georgia. They have a large collection of artwork that represent and life of Judaica from the times of the colonial period. It was I believe, the first congregation.
Wow.
People get very big on this, is whether the first congregation, whether it's the first synagogue, what's the difference? And you have the Toro synagogue, and then you also have Sharith Israel, which was the Spanish and Portuguese synagogue in today's time. I also recommend, recently I went to see and I'm embarrassed to say this, that it took me this long, is the Eldridge Street Synagogue. I highly recommend that synagogue. It is not a practicing synagogue now, but I highly recommend that museum. It's easy to get to in the Lower East Side. Highly recommended.
Yeah, I went there, I think, it may have been shortly after it opened, because it hasn't been around too long, right? Or, yeah, but that was really wonderful.
And you see Kiki Smith's windows, and it's just...
Yeah. And the whole story about the state, I remember the tour, I took the tour or whatever, and they were telling the story about the state of the place, like when they kind of took over. Yeah, it had been incredibly dilapidated, I suppose, but yeah.
And just to let you know, my parents are very much invested in what I do. And I remember saying to my mom, I said, I went to the Eldridge Street Synagogue and I took pictures. And she goes, yeah. Been there. So when it was like a dilapidated place where pigeons were roosting, and she said every time I come there was like a thing that was ready to fall down. And they have to do that. And she said there was a professor, she said, that would take people through it. You had to wear like a mask or a balaclava on you. She goes, she wasn't like all wide-eyed and amazed by me. And she was sort of like, I've been there. I know what it looked like.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It was really,
and that was
termites that eaten that staircase.
Yeah. And they were, that was built, was it like 1870s, 1880s, roughly?
Yeah.
Something around that? Yeah.
It was just right after the Civil War. And it was like a butcher and a banker and another random person got involved, and they put together the money and they built this magnificent synagogue. And the one thing that I will say is that they still don't have plans of what the original windows look like the original windows. No plans whatsoever. And I said, that's the Holy Grail. We have to go find that.